But let's move on to Johnny Gargano. The news came out from Fightful this week that his contract is up at the end of the year. He's another one who, maybe he's going to go to pastures new, maybe he's going to go to AEW, maybe he's going to go somewhere else. But Finn, I think Gargano's an interesting one because even though he's not Vince McMahon's typical size, he's not his typical look, you don't really want Johnny Gargano going somewhere else. So is he in a good bargaining position, do you think, at the end of this year to sort of say to WWE, here's what I want, or I'm, heading elsewhere?
I think so, yeah. I mean, he was obviously been a huge part of one of the top storylines on NXT lately, the Index Tail. I've got to say, I haven't watched all of last night's NXT yet, I've got to be honest. I watched everything apart from the wedding. I wish I'd watched the wedding first. But I mean, he's been a huge part of that tale with Dexter Lumis, Indy Hartwell, Candice, Austin Theory returned last night on the new revamped NXT. Damian Priest was there as well. Cameron Grimes was involved. So, I mean, he's a huge part of that story. I think he's still got a lot to offer in the ring. Wasn't he like a trending topic on Twitter this week, Johnny Gargano, Kenny? I think a lot of people were really piling on him, weren't they? It's not true.
And I think he was trending because people love him and they want to see where he goes. I don't know if he did anything wrong to be trending. I guess people were just probably wondering, if his contract's up, where's he going to go? What's he going to do? I also I've not had a chance to watch last night's NXT either, which we'll be talking about. Sondra did say the wedding was great, so we've not seen it, but apparently the wedding was the highlight, and Johnny was involved as part of Indy's wedding group.
Yeah, I mean, he's been an integral part of NXT over the last few months. I think he's a really fun character now. I think he knows his character. Everyone knows his character as well. I don't think he's going to be champion again, but it doesn't matter. I think the fact that his wife, Candice LeRae, she's pregnant, that could potentially persuade him to extend his relationship with WWE if a lucrative or attractive offer is presented to him. So they've got that stability right now because she's not going to be wrestling for a while, obviously. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's something to consider as well because she's been a big part of this story, even though she's no longer wrestling for obvious reasons. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure, of course, but I think he'll probably will stay because I think that all the pieces are in place for him to continue to do some fun stuff on NXT. And okay, yes, he could go to AEW or another promotion, but there's so much new talent there, as we've talked about on the podcast. There's so many people sitting around waiting for a spot. How does he really fit in? And as much respect as I've got for Johnny Gargano, I think he's a tremendous in-ring performer, and I think as a character, he's shown me so much over the last year. I'm not sure if he would really stand out that much in AEW because of the way that company's set up. So I think it's more, is it better the devil, Kenny? What do you think?
It could be. I mean, the thing with Gargano is that he kind of reminds me a little bit of Daniel Bryan and what he's done in the past with kind of, becoming a character, becoming a sports entertainer, as they say. He's done a great job of that. So I think he's got a good chance. I mean, I've said before, I think the way could be great on the main roster if they were to let them go to Raw or SmackDown. And if he went to AEW, there's so many people there. Is he gonna get pushed to the top of the card or need it? And like Vince is, I mean, we've seen before that Vince, he may not always push smaller guys, but he has pushed smaller guys in the past. And Gargano seems like someone who gets it. And I think there's a good chance he's going to stay. But I think that he's probably, with Candice being pregnant, it also means that she's going to be able to be secure in a job while she goes through her pregnancy, once she has her kid. And but I mean, with Gargano, he's done so much stuff in NXT. I do wonder how much longer he can be in that. I know it's just changed, but how much longer can he do stuff in NXT before he has to go to Raw or SmackDown and try something else?
Well, that's an excellent point, Kenny, and that's absolutely true. There will come a point, and certainly now with things changing in NXT, how long will there be a large role for him on that brand? And no one can really answer that question today. And I think if they recruit maybe one or two other people to the way, like prospects that Vince and Bruce Pritchard feel could be big stars, then as the way with a member of the team that Vince and Bruce see as a priority, stand a far better chance of not getting lost in the shuffle and doing more and going further than if it's just a bunch of guys that are not really that interested in, that they've kind of been saddled with because there's nothing left for them to do on NXT. So I think that would be beneficial to them as well if they had reinforcements as well in the way. Because obviously Candice is going to disappear quite soon, isn't she? Obviously, she's going to have to.
Yeah.
So maybe they could add someone else to the family, and that could stand them in good stead on Raw or SmackDown. But I agree, I think they could do some fun stuff there. But I mean, it's not what we think, Kenny. It's what Vince and Bruce think.
There's a show I would watch, Finn. Vince and Bruce on the road. What fast food did they stop and get? What music did they play? I mean, the dynamic there fascinates me.
The possibilities, Kenny, are endless.
Because people can say what they want about Bruce Pritchard, right? But that guy left WWE when Triple H and Stephanie didn't want him anymore. And he then, with the help to Conrad Thompson, he should be thanking that guy forever, that they started this podcast and then they hire him back because his podcast gets so successful. That's how you do it. So good for him.
But I mean, regardless of whether or not you believe the things that he says or has said on that podcast, it was a very entertaining podcast. And maybe he had a selective memory on certain things. He's a wrestling business since the mid-'80s. Who hasn't got a selective memory? Who's been around the wrestling business for like 35 years or more hasn't got a selective memory? But I mean, that podcast with Bruce, I thought it was a barrel of laughs. I thought it was a very entertaining guy to listen to.